And what a privilege to have you here, Groovin. We're both in the advertising space. Another groot man for me that I've certainly looked up to. You stayed in the ad space for the past 25 years, and it's no child's play, heaven knows. I've been on this journey for 20 years myself, and I know that it's not easy. So we're obviously going to dive into what your biggest blunder has been in the ad space. But I think for a few minutes, we just love to get to know you. So take us through you and obviously what you deem important to share that you can leave with our audience today.
Thanks, Antoinette, for inviting me. And thanks, Impure, thanks, Vina, for hosting us here. Really appreciate, and it's a privilege to be here. What a nice venue that you have created, Impure.
Yeah.
We will indeed support it and see how we can forge a partnership. That's the only way to sustain each other in the industry. Very quite complex and interesting industry that I have chosen, but it was not by choice. It just happened, pure luck that I accidentally got into this industry called advertising. I joined the advertising industry at the dawn of our democracy. And my intention, Antoinette, it was to be a journalist.
Okay.
So if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s, coming from Eskukune, there was a journalist who used to work for SABC, George Makolela, who used to be a presenter at SABC, at that time SABC2. And he will present stories on SABC, and you will feel that you are actually in that moment inside and experiencing everything that he's saying. So I was, born and bred in Atteridgeville, and from a single mother whom I have a good relationship with even till today. So when I matriculated, I thought that I was going to go and study at Rhodes University, and then journalism, just to make sure that I follow the footsteps of all the people around. I mean, in Atteridgeville, and most professions that people will be aware of, it's either you become a teacher, or lawyer, or a doctor, or a nurse. But those are the professions that we were exposed to, and journalism to a certain degree, because there were a number of journalists in Atteridgeville that we can able to look up to. And there was this advert on the Star newspaper at that time. They were looking for postgraduate student, and I was in matric, and they were looking for postgraduate student to study copywriting at AAA. And so my uncle, who used to work for the Star newspaper, now and then he would bring the papers. So we would read the papers. So I come across this particular advert, and I applied at the Star newspaper for the scholarship, and after matriculating at Solridge, then but they were looking for postgraduate, and so I was taking chances, and I probably knew that my application would be rejected, and it was rejected. And because they were looking for postgraduate student to study copywriting in AAA. Copywriting, journalism, they are more or less the same because it's all about writing. So I thought that perhaps it's something that it's in line with journalism. So when my application was rejected, I therefore did the natural thing. It says that they were based in Rosebank, and I went to AAA directly and to inquire about this particular institution. Met the professor there, Professor Gordon Cook, who was one of the founding members of AAA at that time. Then he explained the AAA in totality, copywriters, client service, art directors, and then I applied directly. And to go to AAA. And my application was, and the institution was quite expensive, but my application has been accepted. So then I have to go and look for the money. And unfortunately, I applied for scholarship at Africa Scholarship Fund, the Bayers No Day Fund, and my application was accepted, and they were able to. So my first year, even though that I was not particularly certain that this is the right career that I wanted to venture into, because, if you go to Atteridgeville and you explain to people that you are in advertising or you study advertising, their imagination or understanding of advertising is that you're going to appear on television, billboards, on print ads. Even my soul rest in peace, my grandmother, died not even understanding what do I do in real life.
Yeah.
So I
know that
joined,
struggle. I know it all too well.
So I joined. So first year at AAA. But here's the most ironical part. Irony is that I was in Joburg, but left to Atteridgeville, had studied at AAA. It was based in Rosebank, and they had where you can board. It shared a residence with the Johannesburg College of Education. Now it's called VET. So they managed to go and ensure that they can, get AAA students to actually share the residence there. So when I will have to go back to Atteridgeville, and the people who probably know what journalism is all about, so they will ask me a question. So what do you study? And I couldn't say advertising and I end up saying journalism. Okay. So, but you will talk about journalism with students who also study journalism, and some of them, they were at Rhodes University. And then they will ask about modules, what modules you are in, and then probably I will talk about the modules in marketing and advertising. And they said, no, journalism that you're studying is not the same one that we are studying at Rhodes University. So I avoided not going to school holidays, not to go back to Atteridgeville, because now I have to explain what module. Yeah. And the saving grace, in actual fact, it was when I think 3 months later, 6 months later, and then because we were very few first-year students, and they said that we can go to do practical or to do some back work at various advertising agencies. And then I chose this agency called DNB, called Darcy. It eventually became Leo Burnett. And that's when I started saying, hey, I think I'm in the right place. When I saw the real world of advertising theory, now you are seeing. And then from that moment, I haven't looked back. So every school holidays, I will go to Leo Burnett and work there. And it's when my passion for advertising started to grow. And I managed to get a bursary as well from Leo Burnett. So I had 2 bursaries. I had one from Africa Scholarship Fund. Yes. I had the other one from Leo Burnett. The other one was paying for my accommodation. The other one was paying for my tuition. So, and that's when I started saying, okay, I think I'm in a right path, the right direction in terms of how his career is concerned. Now, so when I graduated, here is the most interesting part. So when I graduated, automatically Leo Burnett gave me a job. So I became an assistant account executive. Way back in 1995. So I think 3 months later, after I have joined Leo Burnett, we were working on South African Airways. Or I was working on SAA, and SAA was going through transformation. So I will go to during status meetings. We normally have status meetings every Monday in advertising. It's a standard. So and during status meetings, they will talk about what job is there for a week, and the terminology of aviation cabin crew, cockpit, anti-mattresses,
Yeah.
and the cockpit, the pilot, and all sorts of things. And the Ian Bromley, who was the marketing director of SAA at that time, asked Eugene Torrente and Kevin Tromd to say that, no, I see Groovin is working on my account, but has he ever experienced this particular product? And true, that I have never been in a plane before. So all the terminology of aviation that we were talking about, it was foreign for me.
It flew over your
It
head.
just flew over my
No
head.
pun intended.
No, you know.
Yeah.
And then 3 months after I've joined Leo Burnett full time, and we were launching Voyager program globally in 1995, going to all over the world. And I'm a junior. Normally, when you do such campaigns, you'll find that the most senior ones are the ones who travel all over the world.
Yeah.
So it will be your client service director or your account directors. And advertising, when it comes to hierarchy, they really. So those are the people who were allowed to travel all over the world and to join or launch this particular Voyager program. So then Ian Bromley, after hearing that I've never been in a plane, says that let him go to one of the Voyager program. It was in New York. So I was going to New York for the first time.
Wow.
At one. I've never been in a plane.
Yeah.
So you could imagine what was going on my head. And the next thing I told my parents and I told everyone, relatives. It was a big thing.
Can imagine.
It was the most biggest thing, and until today, it remained one of the most important milestones of my life, because the preparation, I remember they were doing a farewell, there was a ceremony, they took me to church, the priest prayed for me, they did a Thanksgiving.
Wow.
It was a big thing.
Yeah.
Just going to New York.
Wow.
So when I came back, so I had a camera, those particular cameras called, and I had a film called Kodak.
Yeah.
And
with the flash.
With the flash. As I was driving, I saw McDonald's. So the first thing, because I need to prove evidence that indeed I went to New York. So I'll take pictures inside the plane. I'll take pictures inside the cockpit, because working for SAA, I can be in the cockpit with the pilot. I was in the first business class. And the next thing, when I arrived in New York, it was during winter. I think it was March. Yeah, it was winter time in New York. And the senior account director who working on SA with me, Romain, says to me, "Hey, you better take pictures, because you'll never know whether you're going to come back to New York or not."
Okay.
I did not sleep. I went to the hotel that we were staying, and it was not far from the McDonald's. I had a film, 32 camera film. I took almost all the pictures in McDonald's. A different angle. Because McDonald's at that time symbolized America. And guess what? I came back a year later, McDonald's to launch in South Africa.
Did you feel like you wasted some
I wasted. So it was for me. I've just realized that in advertising, working on different accounts, working with different personalities.
Yeah.
Today you are working on a campaign to meet head of state. Tomorrow you are working on a campaign to meet a certain individual. So it gives you that particular opportunity and that particular exposure. So that's when I start enjoying developing that particular passion. I stayed in this industry purely because of passion.
Wow.
There were some of the campaigns that we have worked on, including Ndizane Bafana Bafana during the 1995 World Cup, including the Rugby World Cup when the fly path at Rugby Ellis Park. Those are some of my memorable campaigns that I had the privilege of working on. And then later, when I started my own advertising agency, the launch number of memorable campaigns, including the 2010 the Feel It This Year for the SABC, and then also, the Inspiring New Ways for Brain South Africa. And so there's so many campaigns that, and also equally being the group CEO of Leo Burnett, the agency that actually
it started.
exposed me into advertising, and who actually ensured that they became the incubator and carried me for all these years, and later on come back and become the major shareholder as the group CEO and
That's
the
remarkable.
partner, and then also being the group CEO, eventually become the chairperson. So that's my, but the beginning of advertising for me, it comes with its own challenges. But the most interesting part is when I started our own advertising agency in 1999, and it was able to take advantage of the transformation that was taking place and the BEE legislations that the government has introduced to say, let's take advantage of this and then start our own advertising industry. And in the cover of Tribute magazine and sort of things that automatically clients will come because they see this black guys who have started advertising agency in the front page of magazine. They will come. It was tough.
Yeah,
it was tough to an extent that and I saw it right in front of my eyes when one of our partners, his car was just repossessed in front of me, and then also staying for 3, 4, 6 months without electricity, water,
I know.
So it was tough. So what kept me, and I need to mention that because it's very important, it was the affirmation that was coming from my grandfather.
Wow.
May he soul rest in peace.
Yeah.
So I remember at one stage when things were so tough, so I went back to Nchabeleng and I had a discussion with him. And 2 things, my intention at that time, it was to either say that I need money to actually to carry me for a month or 2, and then also to I didn't have money for petrol for the following day, and thirdly to say I'm giving up now. I'm out of debt. I'm gonna start looking for advertising employment in various advertising agency. So I went to him, explained the challenges that we are going through, but that I can't carry on this stuff. And he just looked at me with those eyes, and then he just said to me, so my name in Sepedi or Osaka Kenape. So at home they call me Seklope or Nape. So he's just said to me, Nape, Odaun. Whatever that I wanted to say, asking from him, I stopped there.
Wow.
That was, so that affirmation carried me throughout my journey in advertising. That my grandfather just affirmed me, just said that, you are a lion, just go and fight. That spirit of fighting and able to say that, that this is the goal, this is the vision, this is the objective, this is what we want to achieve, just hang on there and just fight like a lion. So it didn't say go and fight like a lion, don't lose, but that word, I understood what he meant. I understood what he said. So for me, it's moment like that the turning point in my life where you get affirmation from people who carry wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the world. That they have lived before you, that they understand the challenges and they know how to resolve those particular challenges, and they know what it means what do you need from so that you can able to carry on and able to go and attain and those particular objectives and vision.
Wow. Wow, 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 Groovin. Wow. What a remarkable journey. I think there's three things that stand out for me. Is the courage that it took to venture into a career that was completely unknown to you. Everyone where you come from didn't know what you were doing, right? And you continued on your journey, not quite sure until that moment when you felt home at Leo Burnett. I know that moment. I remember leaving McKinsey and going into the advertising space and having that moment where I was home. Probably for the first time in my own career, feeling at home. So I know that feeling. And I think that's the second thing, is being able to find that home. I think there's so many people that wake up in the morning and go to work and don't quite enjoy it, right? And I think it's such a blessing to find home in your career. And then the third thing is, especially for the men in the room, you're going to be grandfathers at some point. Let's learn from Groovin's granddad, right? And the encouragement and just the representation or the presence of a granddad that can say you're a lion. And just that encouragement in that moment has led you to where you are today, and a pretty remarkable journey. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. So let's move into your biggest blunder. You shared the remarkable. I'd love to know what has been the biggest blunder for you on this journey.
I think we are in an industry where we don't have tangible things that we sell. We sell intangible things. So what we rely so much, we rely on human factors. So the skills and the people that you bring and that you work with. And as you recruit number of different skills and people, different cultures and different personalities, and it's still continuing. I mean, the biggest, I wouldn't say blunders, it's mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes. You learn from your failures, because in failure, you learn. It brings a certain level of experience. So I have, given so much trust in individuals, people who not necessarily share the same vision and mission of where you are going. And the next thing, that level of disappointment and betrayal. But you learn out of that.
Yeah.
And that's the first, some of the blunders. And another one is not able to delegate. At a certain stage, at a certain time, I have to learn to actually to delegate, not to do so many things on my own, because there are certain skills that you might possess that others have that you don't have.
Yeah.
So having the ability to let it go and say that, you know what, let me just delegate. But it goes with being an entrepreneur. When you start on your own, you tend to hold on to certain things and not having the freedom to share and able to say that I will share to a certain degree. But at a certain stage, you just have to trust your instincts and say that, you know what, it's okay, and let me learn to delegate. And then you delegate and able to. But equally so is to get the right people.
Absolutely.
To surround you, working with you, and who believe in your vision, believe in mission, and the values that you carry. Those are some. It's a human factor.
Yeah.
I mean, and with human factor, it's you. In certain instances, you'll be lucky. In certain instances, you'll be unlucky. So it's a continuous thing in our industry, and then also trying to, I would say, venture into the industry that you have no clue whatsoever, and you wanted to venture into that particular, and you realize that you don't even have the passion to be in that industry, but you're just doing it for investment purposes, and you realize that this is not ideal. So those are some of the things that, as an entrepreneur, we need to guard against, to ensure that stay true to what you believe, stay true to your vision, stay true to what you want to attain and achieve in life.
Okay. So it resonates with me that it's not easy to delegate. And I struggled with that for many years. Until I realized my inability to delegate has to do with control. I was a control freak. I am a recovering control freak. So it had to do with the fact that I felt like I needed to be in control of things, and that really stopped me from delegating. And I think it's Cody Sanchez that says a CEO has two roles. Number one, to sell, and number two, to appoint a team that will run the business better than you can. And so once I understood that, in order for me to scale Afrofusion at the time beyond the South African borders, especially when I got to Kenya and Uganda, there was no way that I'm going to be controlling everything, right? And so I had to learn to let go of the control. And number two, to trust the people that I had appointed, which was very hard to do. So let's park there for a second. How did you get over your delegation issue?
So I'm a product of and who I am today. One, I've been given the benefit of the doubt. Somebody carried me. Somebody gave me an opportunity until I proved them wrong. And when I joined Leo Burnett, I had a mentor in this room called Nchabeleng, who actually became my mother in the industry and fought my battles. And she gave me the opportunity. So what I did now is, and she will give me the free will to do whatever that needs to be done. And I'll give you this particular example. So advertising has got different departments. So here I am. I'm a assistant account executive, working in SA. It's Thursday. And they have designed leaflets and brochures that needed to be printed by Tuesday and to be delivered. No, it's Thursday, needed to be delivered by Friday, and so that we can give them to client on Monday.
Yeah.
So I've got a job bag, and the client service team, they are on the second floor. The first floor is the traffic and production. I've got this particular job bag that was opened, the design work is done. I go to give it to traffic and to say, give it to production to say, this are the quantities we need to print in this particular leaflets and brochures needed to be delivered at SAA by Monday morning. It's Thursday around about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And the traffic lady, you know them, how they are. And it's impossible. There's no printing company. And she starts screaming, shouting at me, and I have no powers. I'm an assistant executive. Here I am, I'm panicking. And I know that French woman, she was a French woman. She's also gonna scream at me, so I'm caught in between the the traffic lady, and my account director who happened to be Eugene. So I took that job back, going back and explained to Eugene. She looked at me and says, okay. And then went back to the traffic lady. She took that job back, put it back on and said, traffic lady, she said, I need this thing to be printed. I need this thing to be delivered on Monday. I don't care what you do. If you go and open a printing company or shop, what I know is if you print this in India or in Brazil, by Monday, I need this one.
Yeah.
And then that lady didn't say anything, and then we went back to her office. And then she says to me, don't come back. And she starts screaming at me. Don't say to me, it's impossible. There's nothing possible in this world. Everything is possible. So I carry that word with me, that there's nothing is impossible. I've learned that from her. So, and indeed, those brochures and leaflets were printed by Monday. I don't know what Yvette did, but they were printed.
Yeah.
And we got them by Monday. So I have learned to give people the benefit of the doubt. I have ensured that even people that we employ, you know the task, you know what it's your responsibility, you are accountable. If you say that you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. So I've given everyone, and that's how, if you betray that trust, at least we have given you the benefit of the doubt. So that's how we run. And having what we call the DNA of a certain culture, accountability and responsibility. If you can't do something, raise your hand and ask for assistance.
Love that.
Absolutely love that. So in your 25-year journey, you've obviously shared some very key blunders that we can learn from. I think the biggest one for me, like I said, would be delegating, which I think is important for founders and anyone in leadership to get comfortable with, right? What would be the biggest lesson that you have learned in your 25 years of being in that space?
Well, Andrea, there's so many things that you can learn in advertising. One, don't take things for granted. And don't assume that because you know if Zipio comes and works, and then the small account you can grow. We have some of the accounts that we have worked with, we have grown with this particular account for over the years. You start small, and suddenly as they grow, they become big. So I have learned that every job that I take, even till today, I presume that that's my last job. So I do it to the best of my ability. I give it the focus and the attention that is needed, as if it's the. So the work that we have produced today is able to reflect 10 years down the line. We have produced TV commercials that in 2005. If I play that ad again today, you'll think that I shot it yesterday, because it's still relevant even today. So we take everything quite seriously. We don't take it for granted. And guess what? The moment I take something for granted, it's crisis. And if I just say, it's fine, and if I let my guards off, and I know that I would say, I knew this, I should not have done this. So I've always learned to say, I should not take things for granted. Every little thing that comes, I should be able to focus and give it the best of my ability and attention that it deserves, no matter how small, no matter how big. So not even able to differentiate between which one is big, which one is small, and make sure that we give it to the best of your ability.
Wow, Groovin, and I think that comes from building an asset of value based on passion versus hustling to pay the bills. I think there's a huge difference between that. When you're building an asset of value from a place of passion, then it doesn't matter how big the budget is. It doesn't matter how huge the client's name or brand is. You are going to show up in your excellence because you're flowing from a place of passion. So thank you for leaving that lesson with us. I think we can all apply that lesson, whether we are founders, whether we are professionals. It is always to flow from a place of passion and to show up in excellence. And I said excellence, not black excellence, just human excellence. Just let us show up in excellence in anything that we do. Groovin, thank you so much. It's been such a